Esteemed audience, welcome to yet another amazing episode of the Great Debaters Contest. This is Season 8, Kakamega Region. I am your host, Nasimiu Kapanga.
And I am Chris Boru. Our intellectual teams today seek to answer one simple question. Should African states adopt a monarchical state system of government?
Proposing this motion, we have Lugulu Girls High School.
And opposing this motion, we have Mbale High School. Proposal number 1, you have 3 minutes to make a statement.
I'm Mildred Bonariri, Lugulu Girls High School. I'm here to propose this motion that states African states should adopt a monarchical system of government. According to Oxford Advanced Dictionary, New Edition, 9th edition, it says that a monarchy system of government refers to a system of government in which a king or queen is the head of state. It can also be divided into two: absolute monarchy and constitutional monarchy. In absolute monarchy, we have the king having absolute power, and it is almost dictatorial. We have an example of Swaziland in Africa, and for constitutional, they have restricted power, as whatever they do is spelled out by the constitution. An example of some countries in Africa which have this system of government are Lesotho and Britain. I strongly propose this motion because the system of government that we have right now has lots of blame game going on. If we have this monarchy system of government, and I am very sure that whoever inherits my position will be my successor from the same royal family, I'll do whatever I'll do to the best of my level, simply because I will work tirelessly so that the person who will be coming behind me will not have a lot of problems to go through. I also see that as we continue with this system of monarchy, there'll be solidity of government, and it will create unity. Everyone in these particular states will see that we don't have any choice of being violent or something, because you know the only position of the government will be taken by the same family. And you know, this royal family will create unity in the country. There'll be no people to say that, vote for me, vote for peace, vote for me, vote for this, and we'll have two evils to choose for one evil. But with this, we'll just know that the king will be inherited by the firstborn son or the firstborn daughter, as today daughters are given a higher opportunity. I also know that if we continue proposing this motion, that African states should adopt a monarchy system of government, the one which is reigning in most parts of these countries this time round is democratic system of government. But this democracy is being deprived from us. There is this indirect system of monarchy that is existing in us. So I would like all of you to join me in proposing this motion that African states should adopt a monarchy system of government. Thank you.
First opposer, you have 3 minutes to make a statement.
It is now well known that Prince William shall succeed the Queen of England to be the new King of England, coming when the Queen Elizabeth II is not there. Dennis Sino from Mbale High School, ready to strongly propose to the motion that says that African states should adopt the monarchical system of government. A monarchical system of government is a system of government whereby powers for leadership are passed on from parents to children. Hence, the system is hereditary. Kings or queens are the heads of state. What will it be like if African adopts the monarchical system of government? First, a monarchical system of government does not allow room for other leaders who may wish to run the affairs of the country in good faith. A good example is the royal family in England. It is now well known that after the queen dies, it is his son who is succeeding and be the new king. But let's take, for instance, USA, that general elections must be held in order of democracy, defined by Abraham Lincoln, that it is the rule of the people, for the people, by the people themselves. Are we providing our people with democracy to decide their leaders, or is it that they'll be deciding themselves on me, I'm the king, and my son shall rule me next? Secondly, a monarchical system of government may trigger a coup d'etat. This comes whereby the king that is there may be overthrown by his brother because of envy. But now when we are electing someone, we know that we have elected him to be our leader. We know that he'll be our leader to lead us. Will we fight for it? No. A good example, let's take for instance King Edward II of Afghanistan, who was overthrown by his brother, making him to thrive to Austria-Hungary for his safety. Imagine a coup d'etat that led to the precious loss of lives of people, destruction of property, and immense suffering. Third, a monarchical system of government may lead to monarch ruling with dictatorship. Let me take you back to the ancient time when our colonialism was there. Portugal, which colonized Mozambique, ruled with immense power as they considered their position as God-given. What will it be like if Africa, the whole of Africa, is ruled by kings who have no regard for African life, who have no regard for our precious life? Will we live in fear or will we live in harmony? Fourth, in a monarchical system of government, it's only one person that has a final say on what a bill must become to a law. Let's take for instance in Kenya, where bills must pass through a series of sessions in order to become a law. It will be more advantageous for us to scrutinize and know that this bill, for it to become a law, it has passed through several stages in order for it to be accepted by the people. Unlike the monarchical system of government, where now the heads of state is the only one to declare if a bill becomes a law or not. I strongly oppose the motion that says that monarchical system of government should be adopted in Africa. It should not be adopted in Africa. Thank you.
Second proposer, you have 3 minutes for cross-examination.
Who doesn't know the sweetness of a cake? Everybody knows the sweetness of a cake. Assume 5 kids in a family, and they want to steal this cake, each at her own time. If they both steal a quarter at a time, the rate of the cake, the whole cake, it will be going at a higher rate. And then compare it to when one child in a family is the person looking at this cake. The person will obviously say, there's no need for me to steal because it's mine. My name is Caroline Odongo from the Lugulu Girls. I want to propose the motion that states African states should adopt the monarchical system of government because it will discourage the act of corruption. For Kenya, for instance, we have 47 counties. Look at the counties that we have in Kenya. If each the person at the parliamentary seats want to take at least some of the resources given or the finance that they're provided with, we find that the resources will be taken at a very high rate. But what if we have a monarchical system of government? There's just one person, and this will reduce the act of corruption. And as my opponent has said that there is dictatorship in monarchical. What about constitutional system of monarchy? What about constitution? Did you think about that? Now, I also want to say that in monarchical system of government, the transfer of power tends to be smoother. You're talking about Prince William taking over from the Queen. It is smoother. There are no elections. But look at the state that Africa is in. There are elections, for example, in Kenya, 5 years. After each and every 5 years, we have elections. Can you just meditate upon what happened in 2007? How many people lost their lives because of elections? How many? And those lives, there's no way we are going to bring the dead back to life. That's impossible. How are we going to prevent more deaths from taking place? Last year, in August, we find that a child in Kisumu lost her life because of elections. But in monarchical system of government, the transfer of power tends to be smoother. And we find that in the current system of government, it creates protests, counter-protests, and moments of societal violence. The monarchical system of government also allows long-term goals to be implemented for the society, because when the predecessor dies without completing a project, probably the person who is coming after him, that's the successor, will be able to implement those, to finish those goals that had been started, to finish up the projects that had been started. Thank you.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for your examination.
Who does not know the sweetness of having a king, and who does not know the sweetness of having democracy? Here, in front of you is Levish JD from Mbale High School. I hereby stand opposing the motion. African states should adopt the monarchical system of government. In a monarchical system of government, we all know that, we understand that a king is the one who heads the state. Unlike in a democratic system of government, where we have the president heading the state, this has provided a balance of people ruling the state, whereby we know that after every period of 5 years, example in Kenya, another person should come in and head the state. Unlike in a monarchical system of government, we only have one person who has been chosen to rule the state, and we don't know his or her intentions in the state. But in a democratic system of government, we can re-elect a good leader who may come in. Secondly, in a democratic system of government, it has encouraged balance in the society, whereby we have leaders of different situations. We have the governors, we have the senators who are there in the government to provide the balance in a state. Unlike in a monarchical system of government, where we only have a king. And for instance, we have in terms of decision making, in a monarchical system of government, the king is the final say. And in a democratic system of government, the president is also the final say. But in a democratic system of government, the president has to consult the other leaders so that they may bring their minds together and look forward on what will bring our nation to succeed. For example, in the Baganda Kingdom, we had Kabaka Mutesa. The Kabaka Mutesa was fair in his leadership, but the son, Kabaka Mutesa I, assassinated the Christians in the nation because he never had the right decision on looking forward to the Christians. Thirdly, in a monarchical system of government, tyranny is easily practiced. Tyranny is the act of cruel or misuse of power in a state. In a democratic system of government, we all know that we have fair and just prevailing over the nation. Unlike in a monarchical system of government, whereby the king has to demand everything he or she wants so that he may take charge over the state. A good example, we have the ancient Egypt, whereby the pharaohs, they took men, forced them to fight for the community, to fight for the king, for the kingdom. We have the king who subjected men in constructing of the pyramid of Gaza, where they were forced. Imagine relating this, someone's life is there, he's being punished. When you do a certain mistake, you are being stroked, and yet you are not being given the right to decide for your own self. Thank you, Mr. Judge.
The proposers have been asked, how will the African states practice monarchical system of government with all our ethnic differences? For example, in Kenya, which ethnic group will take up the leadership positions? The opposers, on the other hand, have been asked to prove to us that the problems that plague democracy are still worth facing compared to the problems that plague dictatorship, and to give an example that has still prospered with democracy instead of dictatorship, despite all the problems it has faced. Proposer number 3, you have 3 minutes to answer the question.
How will we implement this system of government with all the ethnic groups that we have in the country? According to history and government, we have symbols of national unity. We have the president, and we have our national flag. All of us recognize ourselves with our national flag. Isn't it a symbol of national unity? Therefore, if we're to implement this system of government, we simply go to the ballot and choose the best person suitable. A person all citizens will recognize themselves with, and therefore from there we can begin our monarchical system of government. If someone is unable to implement this system, it means you simply do not know the meaning of our national flag or the meaning of national unity. That is Ivy Musundi from Lugulu Girls. Serge Skimeman argues in the New York Times, monarchs rise above in politics the way an elected head of state cannot. Monarchs represent a whole country the way elected leaders do not. Actually, if we are to implement this system of government, it will make more savings for us during elections. There are specific rules and laws meant to see who is taking up this role. We do not have to undertake elections after every specified number of years. Billions of dollars are spent every 2 years in new election cycles in the United States. The figure keeps rising and rising each and every time. Millions of shillings are used in elections. The CBS News reports that the total cost of the 2016 election cycle in the US was $6.8 billion. How many miles of roads can we make? How many miles of roads can we create and build? In comparison, Bloomberg estimates that the Queen's net worth is at 428 million. Let's take an example of our own country. More than 2.4 billion was used in the previous election. An election plus a rerun. If we were to have this monarchical system of government, we would know who is taking up after who. And therefore, we do not have to go to the election and spend so much money that would have been used to build our nation and state and improve our economy, improve our lifestyle and develop our country to go to the next level. I have heard you talk about tyranny. In a monarchical system of government, we have specified there is an absolute system of government and a constitutional system of government. We can simply implement our constitutional system of government, which will favor us and lead us to the next level. Oh, you have talked about devolution, governors and senators, which means devolution of power. Don't you see we are also devoluting corruption? Thank you.
Third opposer, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Before you is Amaganga Joseph from Mbale High School, ready to oppose the motion that African states should adopt monarchical system of government. I'll start by answering the question that you asked, that we should convince you that African states should not adopt monarchical system of government despite the problems that they are facing. You have to know that, according to Abraham Lincoln, the purpose of education is to teach someone to think intelligently and critically. And intelligence and critical thinking, that's the true goal of education. We are here to educate each other. Why am I saying this? Take an example of United States of America. They are using a democratic form of government. Yes, they are having violence in that the changing of power from the outgoing president, that is Barack Obama, and Donald Trump that took over, there was violence, yes, but the country is still prospering. These are people who sit down, they come up with laws and say that, yes, you have gone wrong here, but according to this law, we should do this and this. There is the ICC court in the world. This is the highest court. When these countries are having their problems, they take their problems to this court where they are looked upon. This is where the presidents are taken to court. This is where the presidents or the government officials in these democratic governments are judged and told that this, you have gone here you have wronged, here you have gone right, and you should correct on this, and you should not do this, or you should go ahead this. That's why we are having courts, judges in these countries. Thank you. I'd like to say also that monarchical system of government leads to poverty in such countries. Take, for example, the Lesi in Lesotho. This country is poor. According to the current analysis from face-to-faceafrican.com, they analyze that this country is the poorest country. It still uses monarchical system of government. Compare this to other states. Compare this to other states that are using democratic form of government. A small country like Rwanda, a small country like Tanzania, a small country like Kenya. Yes, we are developing according to our democratic system of government, but the other ones who are using monarchical system of government, they're still lagging behind. Also, it encourages poor leadership. Take a good example of the Ugandan leadership. You'll find that these kingdoms are declining. Why are they declining? This is because they are having poor leadership. They don't have the urge, they don't have the move to move forward. But you'll find that when this person, the final monarch, has the final word to say, you bring a bill and he says his final word, you'll find that the bill may affect the country in a positive or negative manner. Most of the times it affects the country in a negative manner. In that you'll find that the Baganda and the Asante Kingdom, they are no longer to be seen. Why? Their kings made a wrong decision, and that's why they did what? That's why they declined. Then it's difficult to change the direction of a country under a monarchy. You know, you want to change the direction of a country, but how will you change it? You are coming to me, you are telling me, I'm your ruler, you're telling me that you want to change your country. It will be difficult because I make the final decision. I may refuse. Thank you.
Proposition, you have 1 minute to wrap up your case.
My first opponent talks of dictatorship. My second opponent talks of tyranny. I think I've been invited here to tell you that the two are synonyms. Think of constitutional monarchy. Oh, by the way, just take it as an example of our country. Our first president was Jomo Kenyatta. Our current president is His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. That is father and son. Our second president, Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, we can see that in the next elections, his son is aspiring to be the president. Don't you feel we already have this system with us? All we have to do is just to rubber stamp it. A new broom sweeps clean, and a new dawn is beckoning. Let us embrace change for the greatness and betterment of our country. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 1 minute for your final submission.
They have talked of millions of shillings being used to cater for election. What of millions of dollars being used in inauguration ceremonies of kings and queens? Let us talk of Lesotho, Switzerland, and other African states that are adopting the monarchical system of government. There are countries in Africa, and African by blood, but they are still lacking behind. Why? They have adopted this kingship, this system that is moving from king to son. The son that will be a king will also become the new king. He is unopposable. He will not allow to be opposed because the ruling state. But come to the dictatorial system of government, whereby the parliament supremacy is above everyone. We have the rule of law that is above everyone. Everyone is below the rule of law by subjecting everyone to the same law. It is now time that we join hands in appreciating our democracy of the people to exercise their rights. Thank you.
African states should adopt a monarchical system of government. This is more in connection to the monarchs, the kingdoms that we already have. We could have gone to the British monarch, Belgium, Denmark, the Netherlands, Norway. They are monarchs. We favored the British one a lot. Caro, you countered the point. That is something that I noted. The way that you countered Dennis. Dennis told us that there is a smoother transfer of power from this to this person. However, you countered that very well by reminding us about the bloody, violent elective processes that we have in some countries. And that is what we mean when we talk about rebuttal. So that you're trying to water down as much as possible the point made by your opponent. Joseph, monarchs lead to poverty. You gave us an example of Lesotho. Begs the question, how about the other monarchs that are doing very well, such as the European ones? Somebody talked about us, that's Ivy, us saving money on elections. However, most of these kingdoms are ceremonial, and elections still go on in those countries. In Britain, the example you were giving, and in most other monarchs, we still have elections because we have a running government, and the kingdom is the king, queen, are ceremonial. Thank you.
Our judges have decided, and they've come to a decision. Regardless of a win or a loss to our debaters, remember here, the Great Debaters Contest, we acknowledge you as all great debaters. Lugulu Girls High School, the judges awarded you 67.1%. Let's give them a round of applause. Mbale High School, the judges awarded you 66.8%. Let's give them a round of applause. Congratulations to Lugulu Girls High School for being the great debaters in this debate.
That's it at the Great Debaters Contest for today. We would like to appreciate all our stakeholders, patrons and principals from the participating schools. We'd also like to ask you viewers at home, keep the conversation going across all our social media platforms. The hashtag is GDC for SDGs.
Esteemed audience, we'd also like to remind you that the conversation still continues across our social media platforms with the hashtag GDC for SDGs. We'd also like to challenge each and every school to take up at least one sustainable development goal so as to impact not only our schools, but also our societies.
I am your host, Nasimi Ukapanga.
And I am Chris Boru. Stay tuned.